Ladies and gentlemen, my guests today are Nathan Sharpe and Mark Bartholomeusz.
Spell it, mate.
No, I've literally had to type that down, letter for letter, word for word. So for those listeners that we have not heard about these gentlemen before, they are professional rugby union players, now retired. They both represent the Wallabies. They both were predominant in the interstate competition and captains at different levels and stages of their careers. So, guys, welcome. Thanks so much for coming on the Better Chat podcast.
Thanks, Logie. Thanks for having us, mate.
No worries at all.
You can also reflect Mark's last name as Bar full of booze. So,
Bar full of booze.
Well, he's been in that state a few times. So.
I bet.
Actually, Bar full of booze is my brother. I'm commonly known as Esky full of booze.
Okay. So do you supply?
I'm the younger brother, you see, so that's why.
Now, because you guys both have pretty decent sized families, but are you from big families as well?
Yeah, I've got three sisters and a brother.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm the youngest of that, and it was clearly the mistake in the whole family, being 8 years younger than the next youngest. But it worked out okay, I suppose. I've sort of grew up with some pretty interesting times watching the kids, or the older kids, down at the bus stop smoking behind trees and blowing out smoke, and I'd be questioning why there was that vapor coming out, and it was the middle of summer, and they'd kept on telling me it was because it was so cold, you know.
Well, because I've done a bit of research on both of you, but you originally were from Wagga Wagga. Is that correct? In New South Wales. So you're actually New South Welshman.
I am, yeah. I'm for the place of many crows, which is what Wagga Wagga is, the indigenous name behind it. So, yeah.
Wow. Yes. So, and how many generations of your family from that? Because it is not that big of a town.
Probably about 12 years.
Yeah.
Old, of age. That was it. We kind of moved there when I was born.
And, really?
Yeah. So then we were there for a period of time with Dad's work, and we lived on a farm out there, which was awesome because we got to experience that. And then headed up to the Gold Coast. They got relocated for work, and so we went up there. So we got a bit of the bush,
yep,
and a bit of the ocean. So it was pretty lucky upbringing.
Yeah, that's it. And then you went from a very big change into the Gold Coast.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, you sort of don't know what you don't know until you get there, and it was a pretty good place to grow up actually, because it was back in the day. It was not so many regulations around and the like, and for some reason though, I'm the only one of my mates who didn't learn how to surf, so I must have spent my time doing other stuff other than.
It's because you're too bloody huge, mate.
But mate, I was this height when I was 15. And
you were this height when you were 15?
Yeah, but I was. You know,
how high are you?
6'8".
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Oh, we look like midgets beside him.
I do anyway.
I had a full head of hair though, so that was.
Did
good.
you?
Yeah, that weighed more than the rest of my body combined. I was pretty skinny for a while there. So then I guess it just took me, how many years is that? That's nearly 25 years to get a lot heavier and fatter.
But are you originally Brisbane born and bred?
I am, mate.
Yeah.
So we grew up on the south side of Brisbane.
Awesome. That's what I did as well.
had a very normal sort of upbringing, I guess. Went to the local primary school. And
what primary school did you go to?
Upper Mount Gravatt State School. Cool. We lived down the road there on Logan Road.
My parents went to Sunnybank High.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
They're not far away.
Yeah. So, and then you went to Brisbane State High for high school.
Yeah, I ended up going there. So that was good. Part of my upbringing as well. My father went there. My my grandmother went there as well. So we were sort of third generation, and now my two older daughters are there as well. So they're fourth generation. So
wow. It's an awesome school.
It's been a good school for our family,
yeah. Barty's very modest. He was one of the greatest sportsmen that went around the GPS scene for a long period of time. What, you had 4 years in the first for cricket and 3 years in the first for
really?
Yeah.
So you're multi-talented. Because I saw 3 years at schoolboy for rugby union.
Yeah.
Yeah, the under 21s. It was 3 years.
3 years,
but, I think I probably would have traded that for a few more test matches rather than the 3 years of the 21s.
Yeah.
But I guess that's where we first met Sharpe. So made some good mates through that 21s program.
Yeah. And so how did you guys start off your rugby careers? Like, obviously you played other sports. I saw you, because you went to TSS, you did rowing as well.
Yep.
But what made you fall in love with rugby, and what was the?
I think my father took me down to Sunnybank Rugby Club, which was our local rugby club. They were a junior club then. They weren't playing in the senior competition. And I was 7 years old, and I just, from the very first game, I just thought, this is fantastic. You get the ball and run, and you can tackle blokes, and I just thought it was, fantastic from day one. And I played a lot of cricket as a kid as well, but I think rugby always had that slight edge for me.
How about you, Sharpie?
Yeah, I was a lot slower and less athletic, so it was a good place to hide playing rugby. It's a team sport for everyone, every shape and size. But no, look, I grew up in Wagga, played Aussie rules till I was 12, and then we moved up to a school that just happened to play rugby. So I went there. I had no real idea about what the game was itself. Still to this day, the first training session I went to, all the guys that I'd become mates with had sort of said, "Oh, come on down and check it out." And I still remember the first training session. The coach was like, "Right, forwards on my right, backs on my left," and I didn't know who was what the back or a forward was.
Yeah.
And all the athletic, good-looking kids all went to the back side of things, and all the uncoordinated fat kids went to the forwards. So obviously I waited till the end, and I went to join the backs, and he kind of grabbed me, the coach, and said, "No, mate, you'll never be one of those," and he pushed me over into the forwards. So my path was set from an early age, and then I played all the other sports at school, and I didn't really focus on rugby too much. It wasn't professional at the time. Barty probably went through the same scenario. I enjoyed playing, but it wasn't by no means a career back in those days. And then it actually went professional the year that I finished school. So I think I'm a year younger than Barty, so wasn't too far post his finishing school, and went to uni at UQ, and just kept playing there. Rode, had a good time. Had a really good time, actually.
What did you study?
Yeah, he hasn't finished his degree.
Actually, Nathan. Did I study? I don't know.
What were you studying?
Some sort of human science.
Biology.
Yeah. No, I did human movements, and it was interesting. A few years ago, one of my professors reached out to me and on LinkedIn or one of those mediums, and he's like, "How you going, mate?" And we had a conversation, but I reflected on how poor I was as a student, and I was quite embarrassed having the conversation with this fella. He's a lovely guy. So, not some of my finest times. But, look, rugby became professional, and, Queensland offered me a training contract, and that was kind of where it was. So the first couple of years uni were all right, and then I had to make a decision, I guess, on which way I went. I was living on campus, and then moved off campus into a share house with some good mates. Around the time I became professional rugby player, and it was a real test of my discipline, on a Sunday afternoon when you got training on Monday morning, and you got blokes sit down at the pub from 11 o'clock in the morning having a pretty good time, and you've got to show a bit of commitment. So I guess that was good for me in that side of things. I learned how to sacrifice when I needed to.
Were you getting paid straight up?
Yeah. It was
squad?
97. Yeah, it was in the training squad. So there was a bit of money there. So it was nothing to today's day and age comparisons, but it was a good way to get stuck into it, I suppose, because there was no real preconception of where you were going to go with it all. It just kind of rolled out that way. Whereas in today's day and age, I sometimes feel a little bit for players because it is almost a career progression for them to go down that path, So it was a lot easier not having that pressure or weight of decision, I suppose.
Yeah. And how about you, Barty? How did you make that transition from?
I was playing here in Brisbane for South, and was probably on the periphery of the Queensland squad of the Reds, and just never quite fitted in, I guess, with their plans at the time. So I got an opportunity to go. Because
a lot of people who don't know rugby union as well, like you guys came through at one of the most crazy periods of time. Like some of the best players ever in the game were all from Australia as well. So it was the most competitive teams that ever went through. So it wasn't easy.
No, look, we had just a great era, didn't we? Across all the different positions. So we were very fortunate to play in that era. I got an opportunity to go on a Brumbies development tour to the UK, and they took 30 of us, a mixture of a few contracted players already, some, obviously the rest of us were all almost on trial.
It's actually technically termed a piss drinking junket
Yeah, I was waiting for that.
dressed up as a football tour.
Yeah. He looks like he'd handle that one.
Yeah.
Choose him, take one tour.
He's good. Bring Esky. Let's go.
Yeah, it was a great tour actually.
Yeah?
We had a fantastic time.
Where did you go on the tour?
We
Were you on that as well?
No. He was the Brumbies.
Oh, this is the Brumbies one. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we went to England and Scotland. Yeah, so we played 8 games in about 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it was a really good bunch of blokes from all over, New South Wales, Queensland, ACT, and the Brumbies did pretty well out of that tour actually, with some guys that sort of came through after it, with the likes of Jeremy Paul and Bill Young and a couple other guys, Craig McMullen, and there was probably 5 or 6 guys that came through from that tour that ended up playing, significant parts in the Brumbies after that.
But potentially some of the loosest individuals you've ever met as well.
I was going to say,
yeah.
you just laugh.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, you look at rugby these days. You talked about, being a career and going from school and wanting to just be a professional rugby player. I think we were really lucky because rugby went professional in '96, and we sort of started in, end of '97, '98, and so no one really knew what professionalism was, and so we learned how to train hard.
We're having fun.
As the years went on, but shit, we had a good time.
Yeah.
We sort of trained hard.
It was almost like a
played hard
lag
afterwards,
effect, like you had some of the best players in the game in a global level. They would drink piss like their lives depended on it Wednesday night, sometimes Thursday night before test matches.
No way.
But they, as Barty said, they were so committed that if they made that
Choice.
decision, they made sure that no one knew about it and they didn't let anyone down. So that was kind of the nice part of that. And if those teams were incredibly successful because those guys, when they made those choice, made sure they kind of decided to I guess stump up and make amends for it. But after a period of time, the teams weren't progressing as well or winning as many games, and guys still continued to have a good time during the week, and that was when it wasn't sort of acceptable, because rugby really had probably a honeymoon period of 4 to 5 years where there was a lot of that behaviour going on, and then the rest of the world kind of caught up. And I think it's well documented that around 2004, 2005, the All Blacks kind of drew a line in the sand and got rid of a few guys that had a great time, and when you reflect on it, you've only got a certain period of time to make the most of your career, and you want to be winning games and winning World Cups, and they're probably the first team who made that sacrifice, and it's the rest is history since then.
Yeah, well, what about the guys like Michael Liner and all those guys? They were before you guys, obviously. Is that still like that honeymoon crazy period? Because they were like unreal.
Yeah, well, I mean, that wasn't even professional,
No.
So there was those days where
Does that just mean Australia's the best at sinking piss and playing really good
back
sport?
it up, exactly right. and look, not all of them did, but there was always always a couple of guys that enjoy themselves, like in any I guess in any team that you're in. It was far more acceptable back in those days,
Did you so like today in sport, you are literally a leader or a public icon, as soon like people like James O'Connor. Like again, he's almost an example. When he was the youngest Wallabies player ever, wasn't he? At 18 or 17.
Close to,
Yeah,
pretty
and
close to.
no break, no enjoying the game. It was like straight in. You've got to be like one of the best
Yeah.
guys around.
Yeah.
Where you guys almost had that time to like let loose and adjust and actually enjoy the game for what it was.
It was almost an apprenticeship, for want of a bit of a word. So I don't think it helped that the social media profile of sport has changed so dramatically. Like Barty and I play with guys that, if camera phones were around and back in their day, mate, they'd be in jail. They wouldn't just not be playing a game. So, I guess it's all timing thing, and you got to take that into account.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh no, it is such a different era on it. So when you did your tour, you got back.
Yeah, got back and then got offered an opportunity to go down to be part of the extended Brumbies squad, and that was 98, the start of 1998, and it just so happened that year the Brumbies had an awful year, performance-wise and injury-wise, and so that actually helped me because I got to play plenty of games, and then sort of broke into the team properly the next year.
Yeah.
So they say time is everything, I guess, and it was pretty fortunate. Not for the other guys that got injured, but for me, be in the right place at the right time, and it just helped to get started down there, I guess.
Were you a bit devoed that you weren't in the Queensland team?
I think, earlier I was, in terms of, I was pushing pretty hard and I really wanted to be, in the squad because I'd grown up as a Queenslander. I always wanted to play for Queensland, and then, it didn't happen for a few reasons, and I got an opportunity down there, and I look back now and think, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. Because I got to play in a wonderful team and, have so many great mates and have so many good times, as Sharpe's alluded to, off the field as well as on the field, and sort of grew up down there, I suppose, in early sort of adulthood, and it was wonderful.
Suffered the cold.
Yeah, that was tough. The first year. That was really tough. I remember
that frosted ice in the first tackle.
I remember going to the fishing shop to buy some toe warmers for training at night, for club training.
Oh yeah, playing the Brumbies in Canberra in winter was shit house. That was no good at all.
No.
It was icy cold, and they used to love it down there. The crowd would be absolutely chock-a-block with all these bloody a lot of toothless people down there doing all sorts of stuff.
That's not the way I remembered it.
Of course you didn't. Yeah.
I bought lots of jerseys, so it doesn't matter.
That's right.
Great support.
So where did you guys first meet each other?
21s, I think.
Yeah, look, I think we crossed paths during the school stuff, obviously, but didn't probably know each other. And then
Barty was in his 7th year of the first 15, I think, when we crossed over in 1994, and then I finished in 95, and then we kind of maybe 19s.
I think it was 21s.
21s, yeah. So I came in, played 21s with Barty, and we had a few good tours, and the tour to South Africa was a good one. We won the World Championship. And then
That was amazing.
Yeah, it was good.
That's
it was really
awesome.
Good. It was pretty cool, actually. We had to score 4 tries in the
last game to win the tournament because it was on bonus points and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And the winger scored in the corner with 2 minutes to go. So you can imagine there was only a couple of beers out there.
Oh my God.
Can I tell the story?
You can say anything you want.
I just don't want to offend me on, mate.
No, you can.
So we went through the night and had a big night, and anyway, we had the next morning we had to fly back from South Africa, obviously, but for some reason our plane trip got delayed an extra day or something like that. So we had a day to kill, and of course, as you do, everyone decided to have a court session at 10 o'clock the next morning, and everyone was a bit ripe from the night before still. Anyway, we were in this circle, and everyone's sort of fining each other for things that had gone wrong on tour, and what a fine involves if you've done something wrong, worn the wrong kit, or you've turned up late, you've got to get up and scull a beer in front of your teammates.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's 10:30 in the morning or something like that, and the manager walks in and he's like, "Oh, you blokes, who's kicked the door off the toilet?" Like, he's walked into the dunny there, and someone's gone in there and like kicked this door fair off the hinges, and it's a difficult thing to explain. Because
is this a public toilet or dorm toilet?
No, like in the hotel.
Okay,
we were in the function room.
Yeah.
And, like the toilet you've got outside when you go to
a
dinner or whatever it is. And anyway, we've got this circle of probably the loosest individuals that you could ever put in one team. And Barty's literally the best bloke, the nicest bloke you ever meet. And so the captain of the team at the time stands up and he goes, righto. And he was half cooked and probably one of the first blokes we were going to pin the disaster on. He's like, righto, mates, let's sort this out. Who's kicked the toilet door off the shit up? And like everyone's looking at him as the captain, and there's a couple other blokes there they're looking at. Anyway, Barty's sitting there, still hazy, and he just sticks his hand up like this. And the skipper looks at him and goes, "Oh, Barty, stop fucking around." Now, who was it? And Barty's like, and no one would believe Barty that he'd done it. It was quite funny.
Why did you kick it off?
Oh, I think I was...
Don't recall.
Half pissed, fully pissed, whatever.
Yeah.
And I just went to go. I actually didn't kick it. I just went like that. pushed it, went, oh, and it just fell off its hinge. So anyway,
You guys must have some absolute wicked stories that you probably can't say on there. But they would have been such fun times. And like with going through all that era and going through, are there any other guys that went through rugby with you that you had like good relationships with? Like I know there was like some crazy people like Elton Flatley who were like grade 8 playing first 15. Like the only real freaky people that you remember?
Oh, I think for me, I mean, always some good young talent, but the best players that I played with were the ones that could do it consistently, and you know they turned up each week and played the same standard. So guys like Toto Kefu, Steve Larkin were probably the two players that I thought were the best I played with. You know, I don't know about Barty.
Oh, I think that's probably 3 for me. Joe Roth, and you talk about kids coming through school. He was probably the same size he is now coming through school. He was just a giant and fast.
And child.
And he was exceptional at a schoolboy level, and then obviously took it right through. And I think he was great because he could do something out of nothing and just turn a game, just score, for you when you needed it. Stephen Larkham, Sharpe, he's already touched on, was,
he's got to be one of the best all time.
One of the best. Him and Michael Lyon are probably the 2 best fly halves Australia's ever seen. And then I think, but probably the best, I would say, would be George Smith.
Really?
Yeah. Just for longevity. And I think his ability to display skills that weren't even in his role.
He changed the game.
Yeah.
He was, I would have hated to have been playing against him. He was a freak.
He'd put a grubber through on a sideline in the winger and pick it up and score, and you just go, how did you do that? And he was playing number 7. So he was, a freak.
But he also fundamentally changed the game, right? Like, it was in the day when a ruck was a contest and guys would fly in and dive in and all the rest of it. He started actually attacking the ball and becoming, a menace to the point where he was changing games by teams couldn't hold on to the ball anymore because any time he got near the ruck, he would pinch it.
Yeah.
And that was not something the game had seen until that point. And then there was a few other guys that came along around the same time, Richie McCaw, and there was a group of them that sort of came through. But Smithy was the first one that was so effective at that skill. And it kind of made the number 7's job almost the most important position on the field because these guys were charged with trying to get turnovers at the breakdown. So, you talk about that moment when that was I guess a cultural shift in rugby, and Smithy was at the forefront of that.
Yeah, I just remember at schoolboy level because we always looked up to you guys, and I remember Smithy was known as a mongrel. Like, that was the best word to describe him because he would just get in there with his dreads. Like, someone pop up, he'd just stomp him, get the ball. So, what do you think about when they took rucking out of the game?
Yeah, it kind of crossed over that period, right? Because rucking was the best way to ensure you had quick ball because and it was interesting, like being a forward and Barty being a back, so he was doing bugger all out in the wing. But
that's why a few blokes to get the ball.
If you went to ground in a ruck, you would literally have jerseys ripped off, and you'd go in the showers afterwards, and guys' backs would be torn to pieces, and it was almost like
we used to love it at schoolboy level. It was.
But if you had to, it became a moral decision to actually try and slow the ball down, and that's how you ensured quick ball. Whereas now in today's day and age, the game's changed. It had to change because it was getting to the point where people were getting, rucking faces off and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But then there was no mechanism for players to, I guess, referee the game themselves. They got to wait for the referee to get the right call, and there's all sorts of stuff that goes on in a ruck that can slow a ball down. But I can tell you, if you're going to get a shoe to the back of the neck or something like that when you're trying to slow the ball down, you think about it a lot quicker than you do worrying about getting a penalty given against you. So, that fundamentally changed the game as well. And to that point, George Smith performing that skill, if he was in that position while rucking was around, he wouldn't have had much back on the back of his head because they would have taken to him, So,
because like rucking for me was self-refereeing. Like if you had the balls to put your hand in there, you could have a broken hand, be out for the rest of the season. And it was, I actually loved that. So, and what do you guys think? Do you think it should be like in professional level? Like, I understand it's schoolboy level and everything like that because we took it too far. I remember I was a fullback and wrapped up a guy and didn't release and just jumped up and started rucking his back. Like, it's not designed for that. It was designed for that.
I don't think you can today. 'Cause
Really?
Cameras. How many cameras are in a game? Like,
It'd be too hard to regulate, I think.
Yeah.
I think, if you said you can do it, but you can only do it between here and here.
Mm. It was a part of the
just
sport for so long, though.
Yeah.
it was.
It really was.
But you like, I saw a guy literally tread on a guy's. Like, I was watching Queensland B play Canterbury B or something like that before we played them in a game. One of our guys, there was a winger pinned on the side of the ruck, like a metre off the sideline, and one of our guys came up and literally like stood above him. The ball's on the other side of the ruck, and he just stomped on his face and ripped his face off.
Mm.
And can you imagine how that would reverberate around the world if if footage like that came out these days? It wouldn't happen. We know what the world's like today.
Yeah.
Just
I actually think that the sport would get more popularity for it.
Oh, yeah,
because
like
of
MMA,
violence.
yeah.
Yeah, I think they were like, holy shit, and the Americans would be like, these guys are even more psycho.
crazy. Yeah.
Because violent sports are the most watched, like
Yeah,
boxing, UFC,
MMA,
and everything.
Yeah.
And every time it comes back a little bit, I think, it's just again.
Well, I don't know if Qantas would sponsor it.
Well, didn't they just pull it anyway?
No, they did anyway. Yeah, may as well do it. You're right. Get it out there. Yeah.
Well, someone smart would, because they'd be all of the jerseys.
Correct. Yeah.
But I just I thought I definitely wanted to ask you that question, because it was so important at a schoolboy level. Like, there was like a badge of honour. You take your jersey off or it got ripped off.
I can remember playing for State High, and a guy, who's a good friend of mine, played Test rugby for Fiji, Moses Rolini. He was playing number 7. He played Test rugby at halfback, played about 50 tests. I think he's one of the top 2 or 3 capped Fijian players. Anyway, we were tiny, so myself and another bloke in the team were tiny. We were tiny little backs. So every time, like you said, you got on the ground, they'd kick the absolute shit out of you, the forwards, and they'd be looking for you because you're little. So as soon as I'd go to deck, he would jump on my back and he'd cop it. And that was his badge of honour. And he'd go, right, no, that's my job to protect her.
Jeez. Yeah. Have you rocked someone really good? Like, ripped the jersey off them?
Yeah.
I remember,
Not for ages though. Like,
no.
last
week.
Did you remember that? You in that under-21s team, we had a bloke called Chris Roach, who's a Wallaby back rower.
Yeah.
And we'd get to training at Ballymore's, Queensland under-21s, I think. And we get to Ballymore.
Yeah, it was.
And he didn't think we were tough enough, because he was in the era where they literally did kick blokes in the head and kick the absolute shit out of each other on the ground and whatever. And, so he made all of us. He made the backs go first. Righto, take it into contact. Righto, hold forward pack, go over him. As in, they all had to put 2 feet on you and kick the shit out of you.
Oh my
To
God.
toughen you up.
One of the greatest training sessions I've ever.
Probably lucky no one had broken ribs.
Yeah. No, it was. We had a good go at them too. Like, you talk about getting 2 feet as you run over someone at full speed. We were getting like 6 or 7 shoes on each back as we went.
I remember some of the guys on our team, they were literally sharp. They'd put on their front 2. They'd have like 16 mil.
Yeah.
Sharpen them, take them off, do the referee check. They'd swap the boots out and run on.
Yeah.
Like little hookers and stuff like that. It was insane.
Yeah.
So,
Good old days.
So when you went from Brumbies going way through, you're in a time when the Brumbies absolutely crushed it, and you were pretty fortunate enough to be part of the winning team versus the Crusaders. What was that like?
A couple of times you won 4, didn't you?
No, we won 2. We won 2 and lost 2. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
But one of them was in Auckland, wasn't it?
One of them was in no.
Auckland?
The 2 we won were both in Canberra. We lost one in Christchurch, and we
yes.
lost another one in Canberra. Which we should have won. That was against the Crusaders, actually. Yeah.
So what was that like?
It was amazing. Yeah, as Sharpe said, Canberra Stadium. Their supporters were magnificent. The stadium was full. Actually, I don't know if I've told you this, Sharpe. My wife was girlfriend at the time. Parachuted in the stadium with a match ball, actually, before the Super Rugby final.
Yeah.
That's fucking amazing.
So it was great. It was great atmosphere, and I think when the first year we won in 2001 was particularly rewarding, because we'd lost the year before in 2000, and we were the best team, but we were still probably a young team and we were a little bit naive, and we ran the ball from everywhere, and all we needed to do was get a bit of field position and we win the game. But because we'd played that way all year, we ran it, gave a penalty away, and Andrew Mertens kicks the goal and we lose by a point.
Yeah.
So the next year we'd sort of learnt those lessons. We probably didn't play quite as flamboyant, brand, but defence was fantastic, and we learnt to play a bit more field position, and we beat the Sharks from South Africa, I think 36-6 or something like that. So it was convincing, and it was, it was rewarding and probably a bit of a relief as well after the year before.
What was the one where you put like 30 points on them in 10 minutes or something? It was lights.
That was the Crusaders in 04.
Yeah.
So
that was a big one.
So Joe Roth, who I agree with Barty, was an amazing player, just immense presence on the field. He was I reckon the best tourist you've ever been on with and on a trip with. And I'd been playing with him for a couple of years at Wallabies, and I remember texting him like the morning of the final again before that game, and he had a huge game. And I texted him and said, "Mate, good luck."
You didn't text me, mate.
Didn't I? Oh, you might have brushed me, mate, because you had your Brumbies. You were brainwashed for the Brumbies stuff.
In camp.
Yeah, in camp. No, and Roffy I said, "Mate, good luck, enjoy, big event." And he sent me back a photo of his Mad Monday outfit laid out on his bed, saying, "I'm more excited about Mad Monday, to be fair." And then he went out and scored like 6 tries and blitzed them.
Oh my God!
Yeah, he enjoyed his time around the boys. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, you have to. Like, you guys go through. Literally, it's like those team environments. You go through fucking hell and back together, all through training and everything, and then you have a game and you get let down, like losing. When you lost that third one, was that where in the line was it? Because did you win 2?
So we lost 1-1, and then the next year we were going back to back, and we played trying to go back to back, and we lost the final against the Crusaders over there in Christchurch. Just probably played poorly in the last sort of 10, and they just got us, in the last 10. And then I think the next year we made the semi, did make the final, and then the 04, was the Crusaders game.
And was the same crew the whole way along, or a few?
Yeah, pretty much. A couple of changes, but there's probably 10 to 12 guys that played in both.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah.
And when you go through that type of shit, you really like dig in because you don't want to go through that experience again.
Yeah, well, I think the last one, there's guys leaving as well. So Roffy was going to play over in Japan, I think. I was going to play in Europe. There's David Giffen was retiring. There's a number of guys that were, either retiring or moving on or just doing other things. So
going out with a bang.
Yeah, I think everyone was keen to, make sure it was a good night on the field, and then after it as well.
What about you, Sharpie, with the Reds?
Yeah, mate, I came through that late 90s team when the Wallabies won the World Cup in 99. So it was a really good team. I was part of that in 90s.
It's like Herbert and
Herbert, Warren, pretty much the whole team that won the World Cup with Roffy and Giff and probably a couple of other Brumbies boys, because it was at the start of the Brumbies sort of successes and towards the end of who's that?
Bernie.
Yeah, Bernie was in there, yeah, but it was sort of the end of that Queensland era and the start of the Brumbies era. So, 99 was the closest we got, but we had a really good team that year, and we ended up we topped the table by miles, and then we had a home semi-final against the Crusaders, and it was funny actually. We had this. There was a big pay dispute that was going on, because if you got I was oblivious to it all because I was a young bloke. I didn't
the World Cup remuneration, wasn't it?
No, it was to do with Queensland getting a home final or something like that. And the players thought there was a discussion that the players should get a bit of that, which is fair cop, I reckon. There was a whole heap of discussions during the week because it was a pretty senior team, so you had guys that were pretty opinionated. But in reflection, we played terribly against the Crusaders and got knocked out anyway.
Yeah.
But
it's a Ballymore, yeah?
It was a Ballymore, yeah. But it ended up being a huge distraction for the team. I think that, it's a good lesson that, once you start getting hung up on those things, you can't possibly focus on what's at hand. So, it was just a bit of a shame. So that was probably the closest I got to super title. We played in other semis as well.
We played in a semi one year too.
Yeah,
in Canberra,
2000 I think it was. Yeah, down in Canberra. So, no, I didn't have that same success that Barty had, which he always rubs into me when we had a few beers.
Yeah, I bet.
He's not backwards and coming forwards.
I've got to give it to him about something. He's better than me with everything else. So.
Well, you just give it back to him about the Wallabies.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then you went. So you were at the Reds for a while, and then you moved. what made you pick up and move over to Perth?
Yeah, good question actually. In hindsight, everyone that I talk to, it's probably doesn't come up that much anymore. But
Everyone thinks it's money, mate.
yeah.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask, because like it's not all about money always. So, and
Look, at the end of the day, it was an easy way to frame it for a completely fucked up negotiation. You know,
what happened?
Well, look, a whole raft of coincidences went on, I suppose. But the Force were obviously getting established. It was quite exciting, a fourth team in Australian rugby, which in hindsight, I think, to your point when you spoke about Barty and I coming through those periods, you know, you think back and you think Australia probably couldn't handle 4 really competitive, ultra-competitive teams. I felt, though, we expanded to 5 teams so quickly. We had a lot of club players, level players playing in Super Rugby and just content to be there. So there wasn't always a huge amount of pressure to stay within teams. And I think, you know, if Australian rugby had their time again, they might reconsider that. But look, that's what happened, and it sort of diluted the competition pool, if that makes sense.
Yep, I understand.
Less places, more competition. People are hungrier.
Yep,
they don't perform, they don't stay. You know, so I guess that's easy to say in hindsight, right? But the Force had started up. You know, I was keen to explore it, and I'd been playing. I think I'd started every test for the Wallabies in 02, 03. 04, and then Eddie Jones said, "Oh, look, you young bloke, have a spell." So I didn't go on the end.
How old were you then?
23.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So I actually got dropped for 4 games and came off the bench in that period. But anyway, Eddie just said, "Mate, you need to have a break, go and have a pre-season," because you end up playing footy consistently. And to be fair, I didn't really start lifting weights until I got to like 19 or 20. So I wasn't an overly big bloke, you know, so I needed to spend.
You're just posing because you're so fucking tall, mate.
Yeah, probably. That's yeah. Well,
yeah.
And no hair, you know.
Actually, both of you are bald. Yeah. When did that happen?
We're actually bringing out a new product called the Balding Man.
Excellent.
We're launching it tonight.
Yeah. There you go, all our bald viewers out there.
Yeah. We don't
put
know.
A link in the.
It doesn't help a thing. So sorry about that. No. So the Force engaged me, and look, they it was really exciting. You know, to go and be part of a new startup area, or you know, region in Australian rugby. And my old man sort of said to me at the time, he was like, "Mate, you'll never get this chance again. You either play for Queensland the whole way through, or you go and experience something that's, you know, totally unique in Australian rugby." Because at that stage, you probably didn't. All there was Queensland, New South Wales, and then the Brumbies came along, and
and it's AFL over in WA.
Yeah, so, that's right. Yeah. But you know, for me, my first negotiation, I walked into the Reds CEO's office, and he was like, I was like, "Mate, it's time to." You know, obviously we were going through a renegotiation of my contract, and you know, his opening line was, "So, mate, you're not even in the top 5 locks in Australia." So, and I was like,
"Really?"
I was like, "Well, it's been documented. Like Eddie said, I'm having a rest," and he's like, "That's not how we see it, mate." And then tried to like, you know, offer me the same what I was on from 3 years previously.
Wow.
And so anyway, that's if that sets the tone for a negotiation, you can imagine the rest of it, you know. And
we'll see you later.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just felt like I wasn't even, you know, appreciated where I was, which always happens, I suppose. And the Force were bending over backwards to try and help me get over there, and you know, still to the last day, I think I hadn't decided to go, and you know, I think at the end of the day, it was just handled pretty poorly by Queensland, but no one sees that, and I don't care. That's what it is, and I knew it was a one-way trip to go to Perth. It wasn't like I was going to come back and play for Queensland, and yeah, that was always made known to me. You know, when we played Queensland or when I came back here, it was kind of like everyone knew it was a one-way trip. So
yeah,
it is what it is, and you know, that's the real meat of the bones and the story, I suppose.
Yeah. And when you got over there, what was it like?
Oh, it was awesome. It was such an amazing experience. And, you know, people reflect on times, you know, that Barty's had winning all these super titles and the rest. So I had a really different experience. We had a bunch of young guys that largely, you know, hadn't even left home. And, you know, you had to wrap your arms around these young kids and bring them.
Yeah, because you're only 23 yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I was 26 by that
26?
stage.
Okay,
sorry,
okay.
we're talking about my debut. But
sorry. Yeah.
so you're trying to pull this all together, and we were underdone in terms of capacity to quality of players. So every game was the fight of your life sort of thing, and we had a bunch of guys there that really played hard for each other for a couple of years there, particularly at the start there, because you had no one else. You created your own community, and a bit like the Brumbies, we just didn't probably have quite the settled cattle that the Brumbies had when they first started. So
pretty exciting though for you to go and be the face and the captain of a new, new franchise.
And pretty hard to say no to that.
Yeah, no, look, all those things, stacked up, and I think, would I do it again? Yeah, absolutely. So it just would have been nice in those early years had we embedded a few things a little bit differently in the way we set it up.
Like what?
I think just getting some more smarts around the rugby program over there. Yeah, we had John Mitchell as the coach, and they didn't really bring any other people in with
support,
professional rugby experience. So John's way was the kind of the highway, and everyone kind of got out of his way, and it was just what he wanted, And sometimes that's good for a period of time, but I'm old enough now to know that not everyone knows everything, right?
Yeah.
So you need a good team around you to pick things up when things aren't going so well, or things don't quite go to plan. So I think we were too reliant on one individual to set up a brand new startup club, if that makes sense. Like, we had some fucking incredible people on the ground over there, some of the best people you've ever want to come across.
Yeah.
But they were just kind of doing what they were told by one guy. So, I think you need a bit more investment and resources when you're doing something like that.
Because all I hear out of the Force is that it had an amazing culture. Like, even when they dropped them, it was like they're still going. They're like doing better than
the crowd
all
over
the
there.
main guys.
To Barty's point, like the Canberra crowd, unreal. The Western Force crowd, incredible over there, and they're still going. Yeah. They're still chewing up their rugby like they've got that.
They're getting bigger crowds than Super Rugby.
I know.
It's
for that
competition last year. There
was lots of debate about who should have been dropped.
Yeah, well, I think there was a few things, and I don't know enough about it, and Barty and I have fights about it all the time, but I think there's a bit went on behind closed doors that, had they had time again in reflection, it might have been a bit more sensible to keep the Western Australian team operational in that competition. But it's all changing now, isn't it? The broadcast rights, Twiggy's back in. I see you bought RM Williams today.
Yeah. Did you ring him for a pair of boots, mate? Or?
Mate, that's an epic buy. And Hugh Jackman got 10 mil out of it as well.
Did he?
Well, he owned, I think he owned 5 or 10% of the company, which made sense why he was a pin-up boy.
Have you seen his new ad?
No.
Mate, you've got to check it out. Look up Hugh Jackman's RM Williams ad.
I'll have to do.
It is probably one of the best bits of marketing I've ever seen.
I actually went and saw him live at the greatest tour in the world thing.
Yeah.
And I really thought this is going to be an absolute rubbish thing, because it's literally like the Hugh Jackman show. I'm like, it's going to be a wank fest. Yeah. It was one of the best musicals I've ever seen in my life. Yeah.
The Greatest Showman?
No, it wasn't The Greatest Showman. It was the Hugh Jackman show, and it was all of his main bits he'd ever done. And he bought he has toured. He's just a great guy. Like, I left there going, I want to be friends with that dude. He's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And Baz Luhrmann and stuff were there on that final night. Like, all the big wigs for his final one in Brisbane. But he had people who he had made friends with at the very start of his career, all the way through. Tight, loyal crew. He had a couple of Indigenous guys who travelled all his movie sets. Whenever there was any Indigenous stuff needed to be done, they're on it. So they came on stage and talked about how they got to know each other, because he spent a couple of months in Kakadu or something and got to know him that way. But he was a fucking good bloke.
Yeah,
and he can dance.
And he can sing.
Funny
and
he's funny as hell.
Yeah, he's got the whole package.
He's a good guy.
But check out that ad. It's
I will have to,
because he's Anyway, I won't spoil it.
Have you seen? I just love the band that goes on between him and Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, it's great.
That has got to be the most hilarious shit talk wall ever.
Is it still going? I haven't seen it. Is it?
Yeah, he did one recently, but
it's on Instagram.
Yeah,
okay. It's an app on your phone, Instagram.
I got hacked today on Instagram.
What? I saw that.
Who's trying to hack you, mate?
I don't know. Not sure. Someone who's got nothing to do.
So I want to ask you both this question because this is what I always try to imagine. When you are going into rugby and then you actually become a professional athlete, what do you like? What goes through your head? Is it like a bit of a reality check? Because you're literally playing something that you love and getting paid for it. And like for me, when I play a sport, it's just fun. I enjoy what I'm doing. But to be a professional athlete and getting paid for something where there's a lot more at stake, like if you get injured, your career's done, like all that. What's it like? Do you pinch yourself, and then what's the mental mode you have to go through in order to get through that?
Yeah, look, I think, your first thought is, fuck, how good is this? We're getting to do something we love, and play in front of, crowds and with some of the best players in the world. And, I mean, just going to training with some of those guys. I mean, you growing up at the Reds with blokes of like Warren and those sort of guys, and, down in Canberra with Gregan and those sort of guys. You had to pinch yourself. I think the thing I was probably lucky with in reflection is that those guys had come through the amateur era. So, the Gregans and the Larkhams and the Pat Howards and the Rod Capers, they'd all gone and studied and worked and all this. Brett Robinson was a doctor. And so I saw that. And so they were, you thought I was excited to be a professional rugby player. These guys were thinking this is unreal because they were used to training. That was how they did it. And then all of a sudden they don't have to do that. They just have to play footy. But I think
Sink piss. No.
Yeah, absolutely. We did a bit of that.
They did.
Because those guys had those careers and studied and all that, it sort of rubbed off on me. So I thought, well, shit, I'm not as good as these blokes. If I get hurt, I need something to go and do. So I always had that in the back of my mind that I wasn't as good as these blokes. If I'm lucky enough to stay in the team and stay, and
Why
play.
did you think that though? You literally
because some of these blokes are absolute superstars of the game, and
yeah.
In my position, I was just trying to be in the team
Yep.
and play as well as I could. So I knew that pretty early, and so I tried to finish my study, tried to do some work when I could, because I didn't know when it was going to end, and it's probably just fortunate that it dragged on. As Roffey said when I retired, he said, "Yeah, mate, the fins were hitting the sand, weren't they?" I thought, fuck, you could have told me that 2 years ago, mate. I would have retired 2 years earlier.
That's a great saying.
Oh, well, it's not too far. We had to wheel Barty out like a special player in an NFL offense for a captain's run when he finished at the Force. So we ended up playing at the Force together.
That's right, yeah, because you came.
Yeah. He came back from fucking Italy or somewhere, and he was like a busted ass old Monaro, just up on the blocks, and the poor bugger, like he was such an athletic fellow when he was younger, and his body just kind of gave way. And I remember, like, he'd be playing 5'8" for us, and he couldn't train all week because if he'd run, he'd tear his calves. So we'd roll him out for 10 minutes of the captain's run, and he'd just like shuffle around, and then he'd just run out for the game on Saturday. And we'd be like, "Yeah, no, Barty'd be right," and he'd get through the game and spend all week recovering.
Should have given half my money back, shouldn't I? I only did half the work.
I forgot. It wasn't that long because when you finished up at the Brumbies, you went over to the UK.
Yeah, so went to Saracens there in London for a couple of years, and then went to Northern Ireland for a couple of years.
Right,
played for a province called Ulster with one of Sharpe's really good mates, Justin Harrison, his second row partner in the World Cup.
I loved Harrison.
Funny guy.
Yeah.
And he was just aggressive.
Yeah. With no capability.
He just used to get under people's skin. It was great.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
No, he actually could stoush. He loved to punch on.
Yeah. When Harrison's on, was always knew it was going to be a bit of fun at some stage. So you played with Harrison over there?
Yeah, I played with the Brumbies, and we were good mates from there. And then my contract was up in London, and so he said, "Mate, why don't you come over here?" So I went over there for a couple of years, and it was good fun, great people. Weather was terrible.
Then you went to Italy.
Yeah, and then we sort of had this goal, I guess, or idea that I wanted to finish my career in, France or Italy, playing over there because
shit place to do it as well.
Yeah, just something completely different. We wanted to experience the culture and the lifestyle, so it ended up being Italy, and it was awesome.
Amazing. What part of Italy?
place called Padova, which is about 40 minutes southwest of Venice. So we used to catch a train to Venice for lunch some days. It was.
But it's so nice. So like, Barty's family, they're all that time they spend in Italy. Like it's ingrained in them. It's really they still love it, you know. And I love Italy as well, but just the influence it had on their family, unreal.
Well, I saw the photos. You showed me one day all the photos, and just amazing. Like did they start learning Italian as well, or?
Yeah, so my two oldest, they're
Very
in
good.
year 8 and 9. They still do Italian at school, and they're going really well. And Megs and my wife and I still talk it as much as we
So
can.
you learnt it as well?
Yeah. We were probably
Come on.
65%
Give us
fluent, I
some.
think.
Give us something.
Tell him
Adesso.
Sharpe needs to hurry up.
Because of voice.
It's hard enough. No. What did you say?
I said, now, what do you want to know?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that like rugby's been able to do for you as well. Hey, just that you travel.
Yeah, well, I think 3 years ago we went on a family holiday to Italy, and the halfback of the team that I played in over there was living in Rome. So we went round to his house, and, they cooked up a 3-course meal. And actually, this shirt I got on tonight,
Roma.
went down to his brother's rugby club. He said, can you come down and do some coaching? So I went down there, and, just pretty good experiences through people you meet and play with, from all over the world. So, yeah.
Did you didn't do anything overseas?
No, I
clubs,
finished
did ya?
up here into 2012. Yeah, I sort of finished and wrapped it up at Millennium Stadium. So I just didn't the way my career panned out. I guess it just didn't line up to
Last kick of the game.
Yeah.
Stadium.
yeah Millennium
Yeah, watch
Stadium.
that. Yeah.
Straight as a die, just short as shit. But interestingly enough on that, though, I remember lining it up, and the boys were like, mate, don't kick it too hard. Because I wasn't a bad kicker from my AFL
Yeah.
days, so I knew how to swing it. But I just, as I got older, like every time I'd muck around at captain's run or whatever, kicking the footy, I used to hurt my back, and I was getting too old for it. So I hadn't kicked the ball properly for a fair while, a couple of years at least. And they were like, just, mate, don't try and kick it too hard. Don't try and kick it hard. Just, you'll get it over. Just get it.
Just like golf.
Get it straight.
Did it get to
yes.
the 22 or?
It was in the sideline, right? So we were 3 points down, and the full time was done, and we were 5 metres out from our line. We went the whole length of the field, and Kurtley Beale scored in the corner. So it was a unbelievable turnaround. Wales was shattered because they were on the back of.
I remember
like
watching that
9-0
with my mates.
Yeah. So, but I kicked this ball, and I remember hitting it, going, "Oh fuck, I hit that well," and it's going straight, and then it just like kind of just died and dropped like literally halfway between me and the sticks, and it was quite embarrassing because when you're playing golf, you don't want to leave it short, right?
Yeah.
Like you got to have a crack at it. I didn't even give it a chance, and so I never got another chance to hit one over. So a bit embarrassing.
Were you nervous leading into that, or is this like a bit of piss and fun just on that last kick?
Oh, mate, I was nervous as a kitten because I kept on saying to the referee, Wayne Barnes, who I really like Wayne Barnes. He probably polarises people. We get along pretty well the whole way through my career. And he's like, and I was like, mate, if I hit this, are we over? And he's like, Sharpie, kick the ball. I said, no, mate, but if I hit this and I miss it, is the game over? And he goes, Sharpie, kick the ball. And I said, Wayne, if I miss this, is the game over? He goes, Sharpie, kick the fucking ball. I was like, righto, I'll kick the ball.
How good? Did you guys have a good relationship with the referee, especially when it's at that high level? Because there's not.
Yeah, after a while you do. Like, particularly, well, the forwards is a bit different. Like wingers and that, and fullbacks, they're kind of so removed from the. But every time you pack down for a scrum or a line out, like we're constantly whinging in their ears and telling them, refereeing for them, so they kind of get a bit of an understanding as to.
Andre Watson asked me for my jersey after the 2004 final. He said, this is my last game. I said, well, it's my last game too. Piss off.
That's a bit cheeky. Geez, he's not bad.
Wow. And so with the referees, like you always saw George Smith just giving it to not George Smith,
Gregan. Yeah.
George Gregan absolutely shit talking the ref or getting in his ear. How much of an effect did that have on the games?
Yeah, I think it's funny, like in reflection, I reckon you can handle referees a certain way, like
because no one seems to be talking the ref at the moment. Like,
it's
very like
it's almost like man management, like in different. Everyone always used to say how good how well the All Blacks managed the referee. Well, when you're the dominant team, you got nothing to whinge about, you know. So
Richie McCaw in those rucks, though.
yeah, that's right. But if you think about it in terms of a tactic, he played the game on a very fine line. And if I'm the All Blacks coach, I'm going to tell him to do that every week, because all the referees do is look for Richie McCaw, so that Richie plays that way, and then when he starts getting penalised, then he can pull back or he gets sent off. But the rest of the team can do whatever the fuck they want, because all he's looking for is Richie McCaw. So you think back to the 2011 World Cup final against France, and all the referee was just watching Richie McCaw, but Jerome Kino and everyone else was lying all over the ball and doing whatever they wanted. It was almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy that they managed that beautifully. Like, if you look at that in reflection of how you want a scenario to pan out, that's exactly what you'd want. One player to be the focal point of the referee, and everyone else just has a hooting time doing what they want.
Speaking of Wallabies, you both represented Australia at junior level. I hope this doesn't offend you, Barty.
No, there's a story behind it, I'll tell you.
But on the I did the research, and it actually named you as a record holder, the third shortest time in Australian on field.
Bronze medal.
2 minutes and 33 seconds, I think it was.
Yes.
You got there, though.
You got there.
There is a story behind it, which I don't think too many people have actually heard. They just tend to put shit on me about it, which is quite fair enough. But
number one, you made the fucking team and you ran the field, so that you were what number cap? Do you remember what cap? 781 or something?
That's it.
Yeah.
I was going to say 871, but I think it's 781. Yep.
No, it couldn't have been. Were you after me?
Yeah,
you were.
because you played. That was the tour you missed, wasn't it?
Tour I missed, yeah.
So what had happened, mate? I actually got married down the road here, and as you do with rugby, you have to plan it around your mates and teams and all that. The Wallabies were going into camp the next day, so we got married on a Friday night here in Brisbane. All great. All the boys came, and then they went into camp. I wasn't in the touring Wallaby squad. I went on my honeymoon, came back, got back to Canberra, about to start pre-season training the next day, watching the Wallabies play Argentina over there, and Ben Choon does his hamstring. So I get called into the squad. Yeah, I got called into the squad, and I'm happy as Larry. I've finally, I've been to shadow a few times, but never got called in for whatever reason. And so we get to the airport, and there's Brendan Cannon. He's got called into it as well, because Jeremy Paul's done his hamstring as well. So we're sitting on the plane, on the way over, and I'm Cheshire Cat, grinning like a Cheshire Cat, thinking this is great. And Brendan Cannon's swearing under his breath. He wants to kill Eddie Jones because he should have been picked in the first place. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give it to this. He was absolutely filthy. And so we get over there. Anyway, we get to Ireland, and I don't play. I'm not in the 2022 at that stage. Play England at Twickenham the next week. Same thing, not the 22. And then we get to the last test of the tour in Italy, and we're at training. And we've had a few more injuries by this stage, and I think I'm going to play. I'm going to make my test debut. Anyway, I did my hamstring at training. So I've got a hamstring strain.
Did you tell anyone?
Yeah, so they knew, right? So I couldn't train much during the week. I did it on the Tuesday. We get to the Friday. It's captain's rung. And they're literally choosing between me and Nick Stiles for that 20-second spot. And Nick Stiles is the prop, obviously. And I was probably, I was probably 85% fit. I wasn't fully fit. So, I still get picked, sing national anthem, do all that stuff. It's great.
Yeah.
We're pumping Italy. It's in a place called Genoa. And anyway, with 15 minutes to go, Sterling Mortlock was picked at fullback. And he knows.
He was a gun as well.
He was a gun, yeah. And he was my first roommate in Canberra along with Jeremy Paul. There's 3 of us stayed together when we first went to Canberra. So he's looked over. Eddie's cleared the bench. And I'm the only one sitting there on by myself, because Eddie knows I'm injured, so he doesn't really want to put me on the field. But Sterlo wants me to get capped for the Wallabies, so he keeps going down with cramp, and it goes and it goes and it goes and it goes. And that's why I only played 2 minutes 33 seconds, because he wasn't really going to put me on the field until Sterlo just said, I've got to come off, because he wanted to get me capped.
What a good dude.
That's
Oh my
story.
God.
Yeah.
That is legit. Well, Sterling Mortlock was amazing.
He was.
He's a freak as well.
He's a funny
That's a
bloke,
fucking
dude.
good story.
Yeah.
So have you not told that before?
No, I don't really tell that story to many people because people just take the piss out of me and whatever, and I'll go, oh yeah, whatever, and move on. But
No, it's pretty good.
That is actually amazing.
The boys used to look after it. Like, particularly Brumbies boys were really good at that
Yeah.
stuff. Like, it was, that was why they were such a good team for a long period of
Yeah,
time.
that's amazing. Because, you got capped. You still get to say you ran out. You got to do the national anthem and everything. So
yeah, look, and I'd take that rather than not getting on the field. That's for sure.
100%. And then over to you. Well, I got to read yours. 116 tests played for the Wallabies, including 20 as captain. That's amazing. Over,
mate, it's one of those things you just you put your head down and walk up the hill, don't you? And you don't really know what you're doing until you kind of get to the top, I suppose. So.
What was it like? Because you were both part of the squads. What was it like when you actually got to the Wallabies? Because it was literally the most famous rugby team until England started winning and the All Blacks started coming through.
Mate, it was unreal. Because I played in 98, 99 against all the Wallabies that won in 99, and then my debut was 02. The year after Ealesy retired, and I had all my, I guess my heroes in the team. So I didn't care who I was playing against. Like, we were playing France, but I couldn't have given two hoots about it. I was just more worried about letting those blokes down.
Yeah.
Because there's Stephen Larkhams and the Gregans and guys I played against but I hadn't played with. I just wanted to make sure that when they came off the field, they didn't go, who's this stud that we've, that's got a jersey with us, So,
Absolutely.
So that was kind of like, you asked about how when you're playing rugby, like, do you pinch yourself? I guess at the start, the first few games, you're always in that honeymoon period, I suppose. And that was certainly that for me, getting to play with those guys.
Then it becomes normal because you're always doing it at that high level as well.
Yeah. And I reckon every player's career goes through a period where they really find a really sweet spot of how they play, they understand their preparation. Yeah. And then I reckon every player goes through a shit patch where they go, oh, God, and then they start worrying about not getting picked again.
Yeah.
Like they go through a period where they're like, God, this could end, or, I'm not playing that well, but, someone else is coming up on me. And then I guess that's where the luck of the draw kind of comes out. You either leave the game or you come back. And I guess I was a bit lucky in the end there where I kind of went through that period. Like, I got dropped in 08 for a few games, and it was kind of like the world had sort of ended because it was the first time I'd been dropped.
Why did they drop you?
I must have just been playing shithouse, through that period, and whether or not I agree with them, it didn't matter. That's what had happened.
Yeah.
And then once you came over that period where it wasn't so bad on the other side, and it probably freed you up to become a better player as it was anyway. So, towards the end, that was probably some of the best, most enjoyable footy I played. Like, I remember getting into games and I was so comfortable with, I knew once I got across the line exactly what I had to do. I was in control of my game. I knew what my weaknesses were. I knew what my strengths were. But I'd get to the point where I started my career like headbutting walls to try and get myself fired up for games.
Actually headbutting walls?
Oh, like telling myself like I used to hate my position and I want to, rip his head off and stuff, to the point where at the end, like I'd be in the change room just falling asleep, and I could get to the point where as soon as I put the boots on and warmed up, I was on and crossed the white line, I was into it and I knew what I was doing, So that was quite an enjoyable last 2 or 3 years where I was just in control of what I could control,
Everything, yeah.
Yeah.
What was it like when you're running out to a World Cup final and you have how many fucking 1,000 people screaming at you?
Oh, yeah, look, that was an incredible moment. I guess in reflection, you go, well...
Because you literally... I have a snapshot of that right now. I'm looking at, just imagine looking up at that and everyone is just screaming at their teams all around the world, and then people watching it at home on TV or whatever. It is actually fucking mind-blowing.
But you're there to do your job, right? So
yes.
You don't think about that stuff too much, and you're probably just proud of who you're representing.
What are you thinking about though? Because I remember when I used to run track, tunnel vision. Like as soon as you hit that state, you're in the zone.
Oh, it's all noise. Yeah,
it's done.
Yeah. And I think probably we didn't play very well in that final. Not at England, to be fair. It was a pretty dour game, but it was
Johnny Wilkinson, mate.
Well, it just became a game that was a bit of like literally the irony of that whole World Cup final. Like Eddie Jones took us to Darwin in the pre-World Cup camp, so we'd get acclimatised to playing the final in the heat of the Australian, because it was, I think the finals in November 1st or something like that, which is generally hotter in Australia. And so in winter he took us to Darwin. We acclimatised up there. We got belted for 5 days, getting flogged in this heat, getting fitter, and then the whole World Cup was dry, like not a skerrick of rain to be seen. And we beat the Kiwis in the semi-final the week before, and then beautiful week. I remember just waking up in the morning of the final, opening the windows, and it was just pissing rain and dreary. And I was just at about 16 degrees. I was like, oh,
All
God.
the poms are cheering.
Yeah,
going,
I know.
how good's this?
Yeah.
But Tuesday morning.
You don't think about it in the scheme of things, but when you think about it in hindsight, it's quite ironic. But we probably be a bit too emotional, and neither team really executed that well that day. But it was the start of my career with the Wallabies, so you kind of think, oh, we'll get to the next one. But then you get to 2007, a better team than what I reckon we had in 03.
Mm.
Like we'd given it to everyone that year. Like we won all with the All Blacks. We dusted them in Melbourne. We bashed the bejesus out of the Springboks over in
Crushed them.
Yeah. No, we'd beaten them here, but like we had a pretty robust forward pack. Bernie was playing. He was like in the twilight of his career, but he was just controlling the game. Stephen Larkham. And like we were pretty ferocious team. Anyway, we got through the final. We got through the World Cup. Pool matches, no problems. Like we dusted Wales by heaps. And but what had happened is we hadn't actually decided to. Everyone just relied on Stephen so much. We didn't even have an understudy. Like Berwick Barnes had played one game for the Wallabies, and Bernie had hurt his knee a couple of weeks before. So it was almost like the Poms had lost 2 of their pool games. I remember packing our bags, and all the guys were pretty upbeat because England hadn't been good at all. We got to Marseille, all our bags had been sent up to Paris for the finals. Like it was almost everyone just thought we hadn't even considered losing. Anyway, we went out there without Steve, and all they did was just make an absolute dogfight at the breakdown. And we had a particularly poor scrum that year, and every time we took the ball in a ruck, they'd stop it. We'd have a scrum. We'd get the ball, but they just pushed off the ball, and we just we never adapted. We lost 12-10 in Marseille, and that was the end of it. So that was
didn't have anything to do with their little skin suits they wore. That was the year they put the super tight suits. And was that was in France, wasn't it?
Yeah, it would have been.
Yeah. They had the all the wingers and
yeah, they did because I remember
bodysuit.
I remember.
Do you remember that?
Martin Corrie, who was the number 6 for England. I remember in that final because we were quite confident going into it, and Matt Dunning, who was our front row.
The keg.
Yeah, well, we were having a bad go at the scrum, and this Martin Corrie was like getting into Matt Dunning about being fat. And I remember like having this brain explosion because I didn't like to chat too much. Because that's the surest way to get egg on your face.
Yeah.
And anyway, they were all getting stuck into Matt, and I just turned to Martin Corrie. Mate, he's a front rower. Look how fat you are. You look like a sausage in that suit or something like that. And I was swearing, and he like looked at me and he's like, well, mate, what's going on here? Like I was having to go at your prop, and you were turning on me, sort of thing. Yeah, so mate, that was disappointing. And then 2011, Kiwis were just too good.
Yeah.
We lost to Ireland in the pool matches, and New Zealand at home. They kind of had the wood on us for a while. So
yeah,
you get to the end of it, and have I done something there?
I don't know. Have you? Oh yeah, I pulled it out. Got a mic drop out underneath. Yeah, I think he's pulled it out. Doesn't matter. Technical.
Sorry, technical difficulty. Is this one? This one's
Do I
still on,
again?
mate?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Can you hear it now?
no, not yet. But I'll put it back in after this.
We'll get it and fix it up.
Yeah, one of the you get to the end of your career and go, oh, we came pretty close, but we didn't get there. So, that's a regret. You've always got to live with, I suppose.
I don't even know what to say to that. It's devastating at the end.
Yeah,
But it was an awesome experience, though.
oh, unbelievable. Like was lucky enough to win all the won Bledisloe, the last Bledisloe we won, and Tri-Nations, and we beat all the other nations. Well, we beat everyone at some stage in the world, and we just couldn't get. I just couldn't get a job done at the World Cup, unfortunately. So,
what was it like being trained under Eddie Jones? Because some people were trying to get him to come back over this year.
Oh yeah, Eddie's an unreal. He was Barty's coach for a lot of those years. With the Brumbies. He's an incredible coach. Like he pulls the right reins, and I think he would have gotten better with age as well. When he first came into the Wallabies, he had a certain way of coaching, and then I think under pressure, in maybe 04, 05, he kind of changed his methodology a little bit, and just didn't work out. And he had a really abrupt parting with Australian rugby, and it was a tough period of time for him, and I think for Australia as well. So, he was the best coach I had.
Really? Why? What made him the best coach?
Oh, he just knew how to, at the start, give players autonomy. But it also coincided with the fact that he had guys like Stephen Larkham and the like there that were running the show for him. So he gave them the amount of autonomy they needed. They ran the game plan that he, designed with them. And then 05 was when he really came under pressure. But, Stephen Larkham, a whole bunch of older players that he'd had at the Brumbies weren't there. So I think he was trying to reinvent things, and that put a lot of pressure on everyone else in the team, So, 05 he finished up, and that was that.
How about you, buddy? What with working with
Eddie?
Eddie.
Yeah, look, he by far the best coach I ever had. I think the reason why was because he got the best out of everyone. He found a way. Like he knew with the Gregans, Larkhams, Finnegans, Ross, he could just leave them, and he knew they'd be sensational. Whereas myself, Jeremy Paul, Sterling Mortlock, as young blokes, 20-year-olds or whatever coming through, he was very, very hard on us. And,
like what?
Oh, he just give it to us. Just
Really?
absolutely give it to us. But he sort of did that with the young blokes coming through as a bit of a test, I think. And the ones that sort of could cop it and cop the feedback and criticism and then get on with it and work harder and get through it, well, then he loved them. But the other ones that were weak, or what he perceived as weak, he just got rid of them.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But interestingly enough, I was listening to a podcast the other day. I was with Eddie and Joe Roff, and they asked him about differences between coaching, back when he coached Roffey and Sharpe and, the Brumbies and all that, and now coaching England. And he said back in those days it was just black and white, but now it's grey. And I think what he was talking about was how you treat the players. That, do the right thing, no problem. Do the wrong thing, you're gone. And now it's a bit more grey with, a different generation, I guess, and how you have to manage giving feedback and trying to get the best out of them.
Wow.
So
What was he referring, like you can't be harsh on them because the
Well,
players are too soft, or it's too politically incorrect, or
yeah, I don't know. I took it as that, but but it was just interesting because Sharpe heard some of the stories down in Canberra, and you would have had your own ones with the Wallabies. Jeez, he just absolutely tore blokes to pieces.
really?
There's one
They
bloke-
dressed down.
Oh mate,
Oh yeah.
there was one bloke.
You guys are all like fucking huge people though, so he just rolls in and just
Yeah, but he controls the selection stick.
yeah.
He reduced grown men to tears. No, several
Wow.
times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a number.
Was it constructive,
There's a number of them that when they push back to the point of retaliation, it was like, all right, you've stood up to me, let's get on. And his whole relationship with him completely changed
Wow.
within the space of 3 seconds.
Just that respect thing.
It was just kind of like, well, finally this person's made a decision to stand their ground,
So you reckon he was doing it on purpose to test you?
I mean, he was. There's nothing Eddie did that was a coincidence. He thought about everything. He was, and still would be. Everything that Eddie says at press conferences, he's put a lot of thought into how that's going to play out.
Yeah, because I was even watching in the box when he was in England. He just looks. He was just like, yep, got everything planned out.
Yeah, I mean, to the point of, if you watch him in press conferences with England and that, he'll say something that's completely designed to throw the opposition off or create a furor in the press and take the focus off other areas, in the betterment of his team. Always in the betterment of his team. He doesn't say throwaway remarks. Yeah, when you see him coaching with England, if you watch him,
amazing. Yeah. So we kind of skipped a big bit, but you two end up playing together. And so were you guys friends? How tight have you guys been the whole way through your careers?
We separated, I suppose, from the 21s, and then Barty went and held all these Super Rugby trophies above his head and played in Ireland and Italy, and then we reconnected in Perth.
I came back and he was the mayor of Perth, mate.
Yeah.
He rolled out the red carpet, said, "Oh, geez, I've got another bloke who's actually the wrong side of 30 to have a couple of beers with," because all the other guys were pretty young. So
old blokes,
it was good.
So then we both moved back to. He came back in 2011, I think, and I came back 2013. So, and we've been tight since.
Amazing. And so that was the end. Well, pretty much you both wrapped up your careers on there. I want to go into life after sport, but what's your fondest memory or the best memory you ever had
Playing footy?
Playing footy.
Oh, game-wise, I think, 03 World Cup final was probably pretty special. Semi-final against the Kiwis.
Yep.
They were good memories. And I liked beating England in Twickenham whenever we did that. That was always enjoyable.
Anything you would have done differently if you had it time over again?
I can't really say that because I made the decisions at the time that I thought were right. I probably wish I had gotten to the state I was in a bit quicker in my career towards the end.
Okay.
But that's just the journey of life, I suppose, isn't it? Everyone looks back at that. So
amazing.
So I can't make that statement really with any sort of substance, I don't think.
Did you have any enemies on the field? Like the person you just wanted to smash?
Victor Matfield.
We had a few good stashes. Our line-out nerds are a bit technical. Like they like putting together like a chess game in that piece of set play, and I really enjoyed that part of the strategy in games to the point where most of the players in the team thought it was irrelevant, but.
Just get me the ball, mate.
Just give me the ball. We don't care. Just give me the fucking ball. But I always used to playing against Matfield was always a challenge for a number of reasons. Like he was very good at organising his line out, and he had 5 other dudes about my height, whereas we always picked 2 second rowers and 3 gnomes in the back row, like George Smith and Phil Waugh and David Lyons or something like that. And I always remember Eddie going, "For fuck's sake, just win us the fucking ball." And I'm like, "Mate, you win the ball. Have you seen the size of these dudes?" And he got George Smith, like couldn't be interested in jumping a line out. He's like, "Where's the next breakdown, dude? Where's the next breakdown, dude?"
He was just hanging off the back.
Yeah, he was like our third best jumper. And you're like, "What? If you're South Africa, what are you going to do? Just mark our 2 second rowers and good luck the rest of it." Anyway, so that was always a challenge. So having to put line outs together that could counter that was always enjoyable. But in terms of there's a few blokes I didn't like, but I couldn't catch most of them.
Really? What?
They're all backs.
Oh, all backs. Yeah.
Jerry Collins, he passed away a few years ago, unfortunately, but he used to knock me out quite a bit. So
knock you out.
In tackles. Yeah.
He was. Yeah. He's a captain of the Granite 15. Though.
Yeah, he's hard as nails.
Jesus Christ!
I wasn't the only bloke. He used to knock blokes out every game, just about. I reckon.
That's ridiculous. That hard-hitting man.
Yeah, and high. Like he just
spelt it.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's ruthless.
How big was he? Because you're fucking tall.
Nah, but he was like Tabati. We always had this thing called the Granite 15. So
yeah,
there's a difference between like tackling 20 kilos of cement as opposed to 20 kilos of, a medicine ball or something, Like some guys, it was just like every part of their body was just
dense.
Yeah, dense. And he was the densest of the dense. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. Granite 15.
Yeah.
Granite 15. Yeah, we used to pick that every year.
Yeah.
Hardest men in the
year. People to stay away from.
Jesus. And how about you, buddy? What was your fondest memory?
Oh, I think definitely, being part of those teams, I suppose, the finals in Canberra were just rewarding, I suppose, because we'd sort of come together as a group, some superstars, but they were still pretty young as well, and then a lot of young blokes, and sort of grown together over a period of sort of 5 to 7 years. So, that was, rewarding, and, it was a great part of
my life and my wife, as well, when she moved down to Canberra and was part of it as well. I think that was the other thing about it down there, was that it was real. It wasn't just about the players. It was about the players, their partners, their parents. It was a really close-knit group, and the community was very close as well. We did a lot of stuff out in the community with schools and clubs, and
Awesome.
Very small town, obviously Canberra. So really close-knit community. That was good fun.
Anything you do again, or anything that you wish you had done?
Look, I think you think about that sometimes. You make the decision to go overseas, and obviously part of that is financial. The other part is wanting to experience something different from a rugby sense, and then travel, which was really appealing to me and my wife. We wanted to see as many places in Europe as we could, and we did that. But the flip side of that is you go, hang on, if I'd have stayed in Australia, I might have played a few more test matches. So you think about that, but then I think, well, look, I wouldn't change that decision, because I had some great times overseas as well in 3 different countries, met a lot of different people, enjoyed London, enjoyed Ireland, and enjoyed Italy for all different reasons. So when you think of it like that, I wouldn't change it.
Yeah, and you've learned language out of it. Amazing times with your family as well.
And it's now, righto, when do we think we can go back? Not now. It's not going to be for a while, obviously. But when do we think we can go back to Italy and Ireland and London and see our friends, and go and see some of those great places that we were able to see when we lived over there.
And did you have any enemies on the field?
I don't know about enemies. We talk about the Granite 15, and probably a bloke who's not necessarily too well known. A bloke called Bruce Rehana played for the Chiefs. I had to mark him all the time, and he was definitely in the Granite 15. He was bloody hard to tackle. And then and Jonah as well. I had to mark him a few times. So but I always thought that was a good thing, because I went, well, shit, I can't lose here. Yeah. Everyone expects me not to tackle him, and for me to look stupid. So if I tackle him, I've exceeded expectations. So it's a win-win situation.
Amazing. Now, life after sport, because you guys both have amazing careers now after sport. Both own businesses together, and I don't know, maybe separately as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you've got your professional careers as well. What was it like, that transition straight out of being a part of a professional sportsman team and then into the real world?
Oh, I think it was different for both of us. Like Barty was really, and he can talk for himself, but he was very organised, and he's already mentioned tonight that he was getting.
That's because I was no good at rugby, mate.
That's not true.
Not at all, sir.
But he was pretty organised and kind of put himself into that. Came back into Australia and he was working while he's playing, and I was quite strategic around it. For me, a good mate of mine and I kind of hatched some plans about 18 months before retired, and I think I was lucky enough to be around some good people, some quality people, which to this day and age, I probably pride myself on, not through choice or anything other than probably chance, but got some amazing humans in my life. So it was good. We started a company and servicing his family company, and then we grew it externally, and we built that over a course of 7 or 8 years. And
what industry was that in?
Construction and mining.
Yeah,
so
cool.
We effectively ran a labour hire company for those industries, and we kind of grew it to a reasonably significant business, and then sold it 3 years ago.
Amazing.
So I'm still working with a company that acquired us from Amsterdam. So that was a pretty cool journey to start something up, and I knew not a lot about those industries, but to learn on the road, and just that scenario of being able to learn on the run is something that I'm very appreciative of, because as Barty will probably attest to, he and I have got very different skill sets. I suppose I'm nowhere near as structured as Barty, and
that's a bit of a tasty blow out there.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? I haven't heard those for a while. Yeah. So then Barty and I, we were mucking around trying to stay fit after footy. Barty having more success than I was, but
But he was meant to be the grandpa one. It was all banged up.
yeah, but mate, if you bear witness to his genetics, I don't think he's ever going to get fat like me. Yeah, we were looking for some training options. We got sick of sort of doing our own thing, and Barty said, "Oh, let's go and check out this F45 franchise that had started up." So we went and trained there, and we both really liked it. And then we sort of pursued that and went down to Sydney and did a session with the trainers from F45, and they flogged us because they knew we were ex-athletes. And
one of them was a Kiwi, so he wanted to give it a shot.
they gave it to us.
Stitching you up.
Yeah, and then we thought this is a pretty good thing, so we took a couple of locations in, one location with a couple of facilities in it in Brisbane, and we established that and grew it together. So it's been really good. As I said, Barty's got a great attention to detail, whereas I'm kind of like, let's just have a crack sort of thing. So we work pretty well together in that scenario.
And so how was it going from like growing your labour hire business to franchise model? Because they're completely different styles of business.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's chalk and cheese, really. But I still think that with the franchise model, the control that Barty brought to the business in terms of understanding numbers and what our break-even point was really important.
Yeah.
And we negotiated good deals up front, which allowed us to be profitable.
Money's made.
That's where it's the day you sign the contract, right? So so it's been a good experience, and just watching that evolve over time, and we'll I assume we're probably always going to look to do some things together. So because we work pretty well together, and I think the other thing is that we're probably the most important thing that I've realised. Yeah, thanks, mate. Just having people that are morally aligned, like
same values.
Yeah, and not feeling like I would never worry. I would never lie in bed at night worrying whether or not Barty was doing something inappropriate, and that's the same as the other business that was involved in. That was never a concern. It was more about just teaming up and trying to get a good result. And then we brought other good people into the business as well.
Yeah, because that's how I met you guys. I started training, and I remember the first training session I did F45, fucking flogged my guts out. I remember I ran out and vomited.
I remember that. Mate, you had a few guts to flog too, if I remember.
I did. I ran out in the street, vomited, and came back in, and everyone's like, "What are you doing back here?" I went, "It's round 2.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So, but are there any? What was some of the hardest things across? Because I'll get to you in a sec, buddy. But what are some of the hardest things? Because you had that first business. I didn't know that you grew that from the start. Some of those big challenges that you had in growing. Because obviously, how old was the company when you sold it?
It was 7.5 years old.
Yeah. So that's not much older than what Bearded Chap is now.
No, that's right. Yeah, no, I mean, we had because my business partner's family company had a small volume of people. It was a really good learning block for us because I was still playing. We had, a handful of people working for them, but we got our systems up and running, and because of that ability to get moving with a friendly client, so to speak, it made all the difference because we weren't rushing around to try and get things set up. So by the time I finished, I came into the business and had the opportunity to grow it on top of the existing revenue, if that makes sense, that we had cracking. So it was a softer entry for me to understand what I was doing, basically.
That and cash flow obviously is the biggest thing in business. Cash flow is king. What was your role in the business?
Oh, it started out just BD, basically. As I was learning about the business, and then we had a general manager who did a great job at running the day-to-day, and then he left, and then I kind of, through that messy period of, I guess, a transaction, sort of picked up the reins and took that for a few years as well. But, being in an industry where you're mobilising people that has high level of compliance and attention to detail not being my strength, I grew pretty weary of that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So, I prefer growing the business and finding the opportunities and how they all tie together, and I guess creating something out of nothing. And for me, that day-to-day delivery is not something that holds my attention.
You're the deal chaser.
I can remember when you asked, there was a particular recruitment firm that wanted to put you on full-time, and you said, "What do you think?" And I said, "I don't think that's for you, being a full-time employee. It's not really you. You used to run around doing all sorts of different things."
Yeah.
Did you ever think you were going to work after, like, have a normal job? Or did you always want to have your own business?
No, I didn't really know. Like, I never chased, apart from not finishing my uni degree.
Yeah, because Barty did.
I'd only ever been...
Took me 7 years.
Hey, you did it.
Yeah. I'd only ever been sort of focused on being the best in the world in my position. So you kind of go, that's a sacrifice I guess you make over a period of time. When you're trying to do that, you kind of become myopic on what you're trying to achieve there. And you kind of can't do two things.
No.
At the same
Well, you
time.
have to be the best in the world. You can only do one thing.
Yeah,
Like,
that's right.
You have to focus.
Yeah, exactly. And whether or not I was at any stage is irrelevant, because if you're trying to do that, you've got to put that commitment into it. So, that's why I say I was lucky to surround myself with good people that, you know, we constructed a platform that I was able to learn about the industry. And then, you know, Barty and I came together, and the timing was good for both of us. And I think our strengths offset each other's weaknesses pretty well.
Yeah.
You know. So
And Barty, your story is completely different because you finished your degree. What did you degree in?
Oh, just a business degree, mate.
Yeah. And you got into, was it straight into finance?
Yeah, so I think one of the reasons I went to the Force, I was playing in Italy, and I had another year there, and then the GFC hit, and in Italy they pretty much said, you know,
It's one of the worst.
your contracts are now worth half. You can stay and play for half. You can try and take us to court, but you won't win, or you can go and
We'll
find.
give you free wine.
Yeah,
Is that when Berlusconi was still in?
Yeah.
Have you listened to that fucking documentary? Oh my god,
Mate, he was the best. He was in when I was over there. He was the best president I've ever.
There's a audiobook
Prime
called
Minister.
Bunga Bunga.
Yeah. I'll have to have a look at that. I just used to read the news, and this bloke had girlfriends left, right, and centre, and in about 6 different places around Italy.
that's Italy, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's why Barty liked it so much.
Bella. I was in 2008. I was in Rome, walking past, and this doorway opened, full press everywhere. I just stopped, staring at this dude, and it was right in the middle of all the craziness of him for like the third time. Old man, I'm like, whatever. I just watched him and walked away. At home the night, in the camera behind there, on TV, just like standing there, just staring at this old guy. But it was Berlusconi.
It was Berlusconi.
Didn't know who it was until it was there.
was
Sorry, man.
So that was the story of Italy. So the Western Force said, do you want to come and play here? They were losing Matt Giddo and Mitchell and a few other older players, and they were sort of wanting someone a bit older to try and help some of these young guys like James O'Connor's and whatever through, you know, not in the playing sense necessarily, but just try and, you know, mentor them a little bit, I guess. So I spoke to a good friend of mine, and I said, what do you think? And he said, well, look, if they'll help you get set and get into work, do it. If they don't, stay in Italy. So I spoke to the Force and said, look, will you let me work, firstly, and, you know, after the Super Rugby season, in the club season, and secondly, will you help me, you know, get a job? And they said yes. So get there, played the Super Rugby season, then at the end of it, there was an opportunity to go into the oil and gas business or into banking. So I chose banking at that time as an entry-level role. Went in there, didn't know anything about banking, but, you know, enjoyed it enough to still be doing it now, 10 years later.
Yeah.
Huge learning curve, you know, coming from, as, you know, Sharpe says, you know, you're sort of, you know, towards the top of your field, I guess, or you have to be if you you know.
And again, you pay attention to all the details. So when you go into a role, you're like going to absolutely master it.
Well, I think when you know nothing, you want to know everything.
Yeah.
You know, about a new career. And so I just had to listen and ask questions and all that. And then I had to work out, righto, well, if I know nothing and I'm learning, these people have been doing this for 10, 20 years, how do I add value? So I worked out pretty quickly I needed to add value by bringing in business to the bank. So then it's about, righto, well, you know, you've obviously got a network of people who all need banking facilities, and then, righto, well, then how do you approach it in a way that doesn't compromise your friendship but still, you know, can work for someone by giving them a better deal and a, you know, relationship and whatever.
Absolutely.
And making it work for the bank and your friend or your network or your, you know, colleague. So that was sort of my approach to it, and then I've just sort of learnt along the way. So
Because you're head of business banking now, aren't you, for BAQ?
yeah, business development for the business bank.
development,
Yeah. So yeah, look, it's been a great journey. I've learned a lot through the last 10 years, I guess, in banking, and still learning.
Did you find it going up through a career progression much different from the sport or the politics of like the rugby club? Because obviously you have the team and then you have the management and the actual business behind the team. Did you find it moving across into the finance industry, it was and progressing your career, the politics and the networking friendship much different across the board?
Yeah,
Or?
there was a couple of things. I think when I first went into the bank there to work, I think the first thing that hit me was, we were so used to ticking every box and working so hard to every day to be the best you could be. 5 o'clock comes and there was this particular young lady, 5 o'clock comes and she just put a pen down and walked. It was about, so what are you doing? Haven't you got to finish that for that customer? Oh, no, I'll do it tomorrow. So that was a foreign sort of concept for me, that you would just
you got to
stop
finish it
and not finish what you're doing, and so that hit me.
Do you find that too as well?
Yeah, I was just reflecting. It was like the Flintstones when the that cartoon, and the whistle goes and they slide down the dinosaurs and go home.
Actually, I'll tell you a quick story about Tane Randall like that. We were training over at Saracens there, and some of those clubs over there, they provide lunch for you. So Tane Randall was obviously a great All Black. Sharpe played against him several times. I think we both played against him Super Rugby. He was a great number 8 for the All Blacks and All Black captain. And so I thought this would be great to play with this bloke. Anyway, he was the most pathetic trainer you've ever seen. So we're in the gym one day and he's on the chin-up bar and Glenn Jackson comes in. He's about to pull himself up. Tane, lunch is ready. And he just drops and walks out, and that's the end of his session. And then other days he'd be on the bench press reading the paper.
Oh, my God.
He was an All Black captain.
Jesus Christ.
So in reflection, it's not just in the corporate finance sector.
No.
So
it wasn't that much different.
Contradicting myself. But, I think I think the other thing I was going to say around the just sometimes in corporate life, I think you see some behaviours that aren't sort of team orientated. That you notice that as well when you're in teams your whole life. You see people do things that are quite selfish at times. And
I was going to ask that. What major lessons that you pulled across from your sporting careers, and from teams as well? Because there's obviously the leadership part that you guys both had in your teams, as well as those core values as well.
Yeah, I think one of the difficult things is for sporting people from whichever sport it might be, particularly team sports. In the corporate world, there's a lot more bureaucracy and people can manage up and manage down, and you got to be put up with all that sort of bullshit. Whereas in sport, it's a bit more black and white to most extents. You've always got people that obviously probably play more of a political game, but it's far less common than it is in the business side of things, I suppose, because at the end of the day, if you're controlling what you can control, which is playing well on the park, it's very hard to argue with that.
Yeah, 100%. Well, guys, we might wrap it up here.
Yeah.
It's almost been 2 hours, so...
Wow.
Yeah,
right.
Thank you so much. There's actually more stuff I want to talk about, but I know how flogged you guys are as well, and thanks so much for your time. But we'll get you back on to talk about, you've got like the whole commentating stuff and plus the other business as well, and we'll go back in. If you'd like to come back on again in the future, we'd love to have you back.
No worries, mate. Before you go, though, my wife and I and a good friend of ours and a good winemaker, Ben Riggs, have launched a wine brand, Three Kings Wine Merchants, and we just wanted to offer all your listeners a discount code. So I'm sure you can.
We'll put in a link below.
Yeah, beautiful, mate.
And we'll come back and we'll get onto that story so you can tell us about it. You might even bring your wife in and
that'd be good.
Get to meet her as well.
Fun.
So
we'll get Barty's wife in here as well.
Yeah, well, we've got to get another one set up.
Aperol spritzers.
Absolutely, why not? Well, we'll have the gin distillery soon.
Oh, yeah.
So, thanks so much again, guys, and we'll talk to you. Oh, before you go as well, people want to follow you on Instagram or Twitter. What's your handle?
Good question. I think it's just Nathan Sharpe.
Nathan Sharpe. I'll put in the link below anyway.
Yeah, cool.
So, and
Well, I
you-
think mine's been hacked. No one wants to follow me, mate.
Yeah, don't follow Barty with 2 R's.
that's right. Yeah, I saw that pin up. All right, let's get out of here. Thanks so
Righto.
much, guys.
Good on you,
Thanks,
boys.
Luke.
Boom.